Today we're here with Luli from Blooming Founders, which is a startup ecosystem for female entrepreneurs. She's here to tell us about her entrepreneurial journey thus far and her new book, which she's got out, Dear Female Founder. So welcome, Luli. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Angela.
No problem. So first question we're going to start up with is why you decided to start up Blooming Founders. What was your main motivation behind this?
So my main motivation was actually to help every other woman that was in my situation. I moved to London about 5 years ago. I left my corporate career. I was on my own and I had this, dream of setting up my own business. And there was many things I didn't know about and I had to learn about. And I felt very lonely on that journey. Realized the very male-dominated environment and found that there was, a large amount of other women in that same situation. So I thought I would, sort of tackle that challenge and turn it into an opportunity and create a platform that serves the needs of female entrepreneurs, because I felt that nobody was really doing that. So that's how I started Blooming Founders about 3.5 years ago. We have now London's largest network of female entrepreneurs. We run a co-working space in Shoreditch. We do a ton of events to educate, people on how to run a business, how to get more customers, how to raise funding, and also general networking events to connect with each other. And I also published the book, The Dear Female Founder, that you just mentioned. Yes. So we do a lot of things to hopefully, sort of inspire and encourage and push more women, forward in their startup journey.
Yes, and we've known each other some time. Yeah. We met some years ago, and I remember when you were at the early stages of your career, of your entrepreneurial journey, that you mentioned that you left your career in consultancy. I know you had a very high-flying career. What prompted you to it's a question you probably get quite often. What prompted you to leave consultancy and move, within the entrepreneurial space?
I think the short answer is really, I just realized it wasn't for me. And I think that's a realization that a lot of people have these days, especially women. I think we were brought up in a world where, our parents expected us to embark on a great corporate career. It's kind of like, where you have money, the stability, a better life in the future. And as we embark on that journey, we realized actually it's not for me. I might be more creative. I might not have that much tolerance for corporate politics. Indeed, yes. And for a lot of women who have started a family, they realize that when they return back to work, that the progress is very limited because there's just a lot of stigma still in the world around women with with families and how that relates to their career progress. And I think that was my realization as well. I mean, I don't have kids, but it was more of, I thought that I could do better on my own. Yes. I could work more directly, with consumers, creating products that was exciting for me. I didn't have to go through like 10 approval processes to get anything done. And so that was kind of like my big motivation. I was 28 at the time, so I was still young enough to I guess to not feel as comfortable in life. I think it's getting harder when you're later on in life. We have more commitment, but I mean, it's difficult in any case to take that leap because we are actually so we go to business school or we learn about business in the professional world, but we actually don't really learn about entrepreneurship.
No, we don't.
It's a very different. It's a very different beast.
It is. Totally, yes. It's interesting that you mentioned, a couple of things that you mentioned that I find that I resonate with, and just speaking to a lot of female entrepreneurs that I know, they mention that they're not able to encourage that or explore that, creative process that they would normally have if they were doing things on their own as opposed to working within the corporate world. So that was one of the main drivers. And I think independence as well is another facet that you see a lot of female founders are not able to manage when they have a corporate career. Also childcare, that is a whole other issue on itself. It's interesting, Lou, that you mentioned a couple of things that I personally resonate with regards to leaving corporate worlds and establishing a business. One of them for me was childcare. I'm a mother, and I found it very difficult to juggle too. even with the support. Second one was the creation process, not being able to explore my ideas. I found that a bit of an annoyance, really. And so, you know, the idea that the corporate world is a place that you can fully explore that, it is hard. Another thing that you mentioned was, you know, the approval processes. I think if you're somebody with who's creative and, you know, has ideas, that process probably is a bit annoying to yourself. So
to say the very least,
it is. There's no two ways about it. Just to move on, you wrote the book, Dear Female Founder. Tell us about that and what prompted you to write the book. I've read the book myself. I found it very inspiring, but it would be good to hear what, you know, initiated that idea and why you wanted to explore this.
So the idea came actually after an event that I've hosted. We were talking with the attendees and we're talking about the role models or the lack of role models in the entrepreneurship space when it comes to female entrepreneurs. I actually sort of started, that was about like 3 years ago, and at that time nobody was really talking about female entrepreneurs. It's now become a bit more of a popular topic, but 3 years ago, the whole media was talking about Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, like, you know, the big guys from Silicon Valley. And obviously they've all built, you know, kind of big, you know, sort of businesses, which is, you know, very incredible, but it's not really relatable for, I guess, you know, the average like entrepreneur, and especially for a woman, right? Because you're not a Harvard dropout, you're not a Stanford graduate, you're not male and white, and you're not part of that ecosystem. And you kind of think that, well, do I have to be that to be successful? And the answer is obviously no. But we don't know of enough other people, you know, women that have built businesses, and we don't really hear from them. So one of the main objectives with the book was really to create more role models in the space and to have these women tell their stories and give their advice to sort of the future generation of female entrepreneurs. So it's kind of like a little ecosystem in itself. And the concept of the book is it actually contains 66 letters that 66 women have written to almost their younger self. So they're all sort of, you know, entrepreneurs who have been there and done that, loads of experience. And I've asked them to write a letter because I'm not a trained journalist, I think, and I didn't want to like completely interview them. I interviewed them like in the beginning process to brief them, but ultimately they sat down and wrote a very personal letter with their advice. And I think it's really interesting because it creates authenticity around the content. And because you never know what people actually go through, right? Mental health actually is, you know, becoming now a topic as well. And you realize actually how many of those big guys actually in, you know, in Silicon Valley or in the US also struggle with these things because nobody ever talked about it.
Of course not,
And so that was, you know, the concept of the book, to kind of have them share their stories, their advice, as they would sort of sharing it to their younger selves when they started out. And hopefully we can, you know, sort of create that resource as a book for aspiring women to tap into, to kind of keep themselves motivated because they realize that it's just normal, you know, like challenges are normal, and you just have to keep on forging
ahead. It's very interesting you mentioned the authenticity that you garnered from your book. What I did actually relate to when I read Dear Female Founder was the fact that these women were writing letters to themselves. And it kind of portrayed it in a more unique way and an honest and open way. That it gave me a bit of additional support when I originally started my business. You know, what it did say was, you know, you're not alone. You're not the only one going through these challenges. You know, the knockbacks that you're getting are not unique. And I think that was very encouraging. We've seen that with Michelle Obama's book. She's been very, very open about it, you know, with her career and also her experiences as First Lady. So, you know, I think the way female entrepreneurs and female businesswomen or career women tells their stories is it is very important for these stories to be told and for other women to actually use them as a support system. So it's very commendable what you've done.
Thank you.
Kudos to you. Any other books in the pipeline?
Well, potentially. I mean, I set up Dear Female Founder, you know, from a brand perspective to be able to kind of extend into a series. However, we're very busy with Blooming Founders at the moment, building other exciting things. We're launching our own app. We have, just opened our own co-working space in Shoreditch in London. We're looking to do more conferences this year. So probably not this year, but potentially next year or so. I'm also looking into the whole investment space at the moment, because if you look at the startup journey, once you've built, a bit of a MVP, a product, you have early customers, like, first customers, you want capital, you need capital to grow. And that's where like most of female founders are actually still being held back. So who knows, maybe the next edition of Dear Female Founders written by investors or from a, sort of a different angle. We'll see.
You mentioned female funding, and we know that's a whole other story, and maybe we could come back and talk about that at some point. I mean, we've been there. And we know that only 3% of women are actually getting funding for their propositions for various different reasons, by the fact of them being female, or their ideas not being seen as scalable, or little cottage industries or whatever. So yes, what would you, moving on from that and related to that, what would you say are your challenges that you've met thus far as a female founder? Could you tell us a bit about that? I'm sure.
I mean, everybody asks me that question.
Yes, of course.
It's quite an obvious one, right? Because I mean, I pretty much turned those challenges into an opportunity and created Blooming Founders to help with those challenges. And I do see very similar challenges that women face across all industries, actually. One is, feeling alone. A lot of women actually start a business on their own, and you don't have a co-founder. You do everything on your own. You have to learn everything, Google a lot, and just put yourself out there somehow. A lot of women also feel a bit hesitant about the whole thing because they feel that they don't know enough. People might have had like a great corporate career, but they were specialized in one area. So if you're coming out of finance, you might feel a bit hesitant about the marketing side of things. If you're coming from marketing, you might feel a bit hesitant about the number side of things. So whatever it is, I think that a lot of women, think that they can't do things because of X, Y, Z, because they don't know this and this and that. But frankly, nobody ever knows everything, and the men certainly don't, and they still do it, right? So in the startup sort of ecosystem, that's kind of like what I can clearly see what the difference is, right? But that's also why I sort of started Blooming Founders, to create that network, to kind of put all the brains together, because together we can help each other find answers, find people, find connections. So that's one of the big things. The other thing is actually, you mentioned that already, is the fact that society still doesn't deem female entrepreneurs as people who start and build great businesses and big businesses that can also exit. And maybe that is also, because there's not enough role models out there, but I think there's a whole movement at the moment. The typical thing that people think about female founders is that, it's a social enterprise, it's a small business, it's a cupcake business, kitchen table, whatever, lifestyle business, you mentioned that, but they don't realize actually that in the lifestyle space, there's big spending going on, and there's a lot of, money to be made if you're creating the right proposition. And it's about innovation ultimately as well, right? Exactly. I mean, I think women have a unique perspective about the world, and we want, the world might have not been designed for our needs and for our liking, and who would be better to innovate, for us, for the broader world than ourselves, basically, right? So I think that's what people underestimate, whether it's investors or just generally, that people that just don't see women as business, savvy, or business people, right? I mean, personally, I guess suffered from that, in the beginning. In my first year of building Blooming Founders, a lot of people thought I was building a charity because I was, doing events, bringing women together with a mission to help them. But why should it be a charity? You know what I mean? And there's great other General Assembly, for example, who kind of built a whole, exited to Adecco for many, many millions, and having built a community of coders and people like that are interested in learning and embark on a technical career, right? So, there's many, many examples, but the moment you talking about women
Yes.
or something like female related,
Yes.
like it is a bit of a social enterprise
Yes.
of some sort.
Yes,
You know,
I completely concur with that. And the irony is, the irony is that we speak about lifestyle businesses and social enterprises and cottage industries, but we've seen companies that have been built. We look at the Honest Company with Jessica Alba. She wasn't taken seriously. Her company's now worth £1 billion. We've also seen that with Gwyneth Paltrow. We were talking about that earlier over coffee, whereby she was laughed at. Goop. And we're seeing that we're
mocked a lot in the beginning.
Exactly. And she took a lot of knocks, and her being an actress as well. And we're now seeing that these are serious businesses. And it baffles me that people also think that you can't build valuable enterprises out of lifestyle. I mean, why wouldn't you? Businesses come out, ideas come out of necessity. So it always perplexes me a bit when people think that you couldn't create an idea out of something that you use every day, or something that's viable for you, something that you need. And that's where the hidden gem is. Yes, it's and you mentioned people thinking your company's a charity. I've experienced people thinking that my business was a hobby. It's something I do on the side, and behold, it isn't. So we're here, and it's very refreshing to see where your company has come from. From 3 years ago, and I remember when you started out, and it's very inspiring, and it's very good to see. And we were very, very pleased to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
We'll get you back to talk about something else.
Yes.
So everybody, Blooming Founders, you need to go check it out. She's got a new, an ecosystem, and you've got a new space for female founders. So
and our new app is launching as well.
App is launching, so check
lots of
it out.
things. Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Angela.
Thank you for having us. And thank you for coming along. Thank you.